Hi, everybody. Teri and I
Hello.
can't ever tell which
I
hand.
know. It's hard to get your hands in when we're big.
Well,
Well, how are you, Nancy Jean?
I'm fine. Happy birthday. It's Teri's birthday.
Thank you. Happy birthday to me. I'm
Mhm.
real excited about it. Kind of.
Good.
Yeah.
Is that show with Allie today?
No, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday night at 6. Yeah, 6
Wednesday,
Central.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wednesday night at 6 Central. Allie's having a birthday party for Teri. And she's
Yeah.
inviting a lot of readers just to show up and say hi.
Yeah. Just to say, it's only for an hour. It's not going to be
It's not going to be a
a long
marathon.
one. No, it's not going to be a marathon. I don't usually have birthday parties.
Oh,
So this is Allie wanted to do it, and I'm like, okay, this
yeah.
is unusual for me. So
Well,
it'll be fun.
the last birthday party I had was on my 70th birthday, which
Oh,
was that was the last birthday pre-COVID. And I I decided I wanted to have my birthday party on the trolley. You can rent trolleys here and they're set up to hold parties, and everybody looked at me like, and we'd done one for my youngest. Hi, oil painter. Hello, tribal dancers. Um, and and I had friends come in from out of state, and I had friends that were from other parts of the state that had come stay here. And I had one friend who said, "Why are you doing this on the trolley?" She really hates the trolleys because to her they stop all the traffic in downtown Dallas, and but they're lots of fun, and you get to drive through the whole of all of downtown. They go around twice,
yeah.
and um, my kids got all the food and the booze and everything. And I mean, it was really people that I'd known since I was in grade school, all the way up to people that had just been in my Tro class. And we had a hell of a time. We filled that damn car
Wow.
up to, and we had a wonderful time. And the lady who was so like, why would you ever want to do that? Her son was a toddler at the time. I think last year she had his birthday party on the trolley. Because you get to wave the cars and they all wave at you, and kind of like you have your own parade.
That would be fun. We have trolleys here too, and then we also have those beer carts that have the
Okay.
keg in the center and you pedal.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are a big hit too. I've never been on one, but looks like fun.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well,
I'm not a beer person, but
I'm
it
not a
sounds
beer
like
person.
fun.
Mine would be fine if that was a big barrel of wine up there. I'd be fine.
Right? Yeah. Big barrel Sauvignon Blanc, and I'd be happy.
Hi, Dr. Gail.
Hi, Dr. Gail. How are you?
She was good when I was talking to her last night.
Good.
Um, anyway, we're talking about energies and how the energies are shifting. And if you don't believe the energy can shift quickly, you didn't live through last week.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I'm still dizzy from it. I got to say. It's like I feel like I've got one foot in one timeline and another foot in another timeline. And kind of doing a little shuffle there.
yeah. Well, it's an that's that old Chinese proverb: "You live in interesting times."
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it really is right now. And I like what you had up. We were talking about that backstage too, about true, true, true. Um, uh, because different people have different truths, and there's no judgment there. But sometimes you spend so much time, or I used to, for people in my family or my extended family, like in-laws, trying to explain to them why I was right or that I was nice. Really, I
mhm.
wanted to explain that. That was my truth, that I was having a good heart about this. And they couldn't ever see it. And now I understand that that just was not in their timeline. That was
It's
not their
not
truth.
just in their timeline. One of the things, like I was telling Terry, I've been studying. If I'm supposed to be doing a show with Danny Shea and Dorothy Morgan on 8/8 Lionsgate, which is next week. And we thought we were going to do it by the 1st, but apparently not, because I can't find them. So I've got lots of information, but I've been studying ley lines and energies and the shifts that are going on with them. And I've also been reading a lot of shaman material. And I heard this one guy talk, and he said, and the other thing that's happened is my oldest son has started a YouTube channel about politics, and he's trying to keep it into little 15-minute chunks so he can explain to people what they kind of need to know, instead of so often you get pushed off the dock into the deep water in politics and like, what the hell are they talking about? But he talks about polling. He talks about size of people that they poll, and when you're looking at a thing, how do you figure out how to campaign and all that stuff. But so I've been talking with him a lot. So because of that, I've gone back into talking about politics more than I had. And I realize that politics is like religion. Politics and religion both have a duality. You have your right answer and someone else has theirs.
They do.
And then it's a contest. It's like why I never liked contact sports or competition, where you got scored on stuff like that. I never liked that.
There's a judgment involved, isn't there?
Yeah, because the judgment. So because there's the duality. There's one side is opposite the other in essence. So
yeah.
But in spirituality, you're trying to look at things from all sides. And I was thinking about that with regards to my the oracle garden that I throw the crystals in.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of duality in tarot. There just is. It's built in. It came out of the culture that was the word. But there's not, like when I did the garden, I said, I don't want it to do politics. It won't do politics. It'll say what's going to be the direction we're heading in. Is, are we moving forward, or are we feeling repressed? You can ask those kinds of questions, but you can't say who's going to win. It doesn't do wins and losses. It doesn't even do judgmental things about people. And if you don't believe me, if you can go back and find the old show I did with Sheila from Celtic Tarot, she had a garden, and she said, let's read them together. And we did all of the questions people had about where am I and how am I moving with my guides and where's my energy moved to. But then she said, I want to ask a couple political questions. And every time we threw in the garden, when she was asking questions about the Orange Menace, and the one that always rolled off. And I mean, I don't know if you've never seen the garden work. Our stones are like this. They're not round. They don't roll off easily. That's why I did them as raw stones. The one that was the mind would roll off every time we asked about the Orange Menace for both of us. And we asked other questions, it didn't roll off.
So what do you think that's indicating?
I think it was a reflection of it was telling us about him. I mean, if you
off his mind or out of his mind.
If you consider, okay, I can show you this. This is for people who haven't seen the garden. That's the garden. And it's a universe of ideas. All around the outside is the chakras. In the inside are states and positions like go for it, true, future, present, path forward, false. There's the tree of life's in here. And in the very center are the 4 elements that I'm used to working with. If you're Asian, there are 5. But if for us, there's water, fire, earth, and air. And they all have their own place. And which stone falls in it, there's body, mind, spirit, grounding, and clarity. And that's the world's fastest tour of the garden. And when you're dealing with it, it takes a more it's a more spiritual point of view, and it really isn't saying even if it says to go for it, it's because it's showing you what foundations you have that make it easier to move forward. Stuff.
I like that. I like that. Because I feel like politics kind of has two different timelines, doesn't it?
Yes.
There's the timeline of one side and a timeline of another side, and then perhaps it has infinite potential of lots of different timelines that can be people that think in different ways, different outcomes.
But look at the words we use when we talk about dealing with it. We use words like a campaign. So you have to have strategies. That means you're moving your little soldiers forward while somebody else is doing theirs in other places. You just saw a brilliant piece of strategy when the Republicans ran their convention and did nothing but talk about Joe Biden. And then a week later, they're running against someone else.
Yeah.
So they spent their whole, that's your big gun move to outline things. And that's a strategy. I mean, when that happened, Paul Freed I was picking, this is kind of cute.
It's really cute, Paul.
I was picking my lemon tree this morning and had a butterfly visit, like 3 of them, just flying around. It was like, wow, yeah, I that's so good. Butterflies are such lovely messages.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Paul. Yeah, it was strategic, and I felt like I know a lot of people got really upset by it, but I felt like it was timing. I felt like it was the right time, and it's just a time shift from what was going to happen later to now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were all aware of that. Maybe they were. I'd like to think they were. But,
well, Scott and I were talking about it last night because we'd done all Sunday morning and everybody kept saying, is Joe staying in and what's going on? And he and I were reading, yeah, it's going to be Joe in November and da 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 da. And then an hour and a half later, it's not, you know. Yeah. But see, we'd always seen him leaving after the election, you know, handing it over then.
Yeah.
And so we got people seeing critters. Dragonflies, my favorites.
Mimi, I love that. Wow.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Yeah, the dragonflies are amazing. They're so beautiful.
I got so excited about the dragonflies, I choked.
Yeah, and butterflies. Love that. You know, there's yeah, it was quite interesting. I'd always seen him on the platform on the dais at inauguration sitting, but I always saw Pamela walking. So I thought maybe he'd be ill at that point, but now I think he's just a previous president at that point.
Well, usually the last president shows up.
Yeah.
The only person who didn't was Trump didn't come.
Yeah.
Biden won.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Scott and I are hiding the same way all the other readers are. You know, it's really hard to do timing with tarot, which is the other fun thing with the garden. When I agreed to create the garden, when they were telling me you're going to do this, I said, I'm going to give you some things. You can do timing with the garden. I can see what season things are going to be happening in for people. And I've tried that quite a bit when maybe Thursday I'll do garden readings. You can ask, I want to change jobs. When might that happen? And you can see it happen and I've had people write me and say, you're exactly on. It was springtime and you said the real job would be there for me in the fall. And I was like really upset when you said it. And then I just got used to the idea we're going to show up in the fall. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
So timing and and everything's moving so fast.
Excuse me.
We just had the sneezies in the Midwest today.
Pardon me?
Getting the sneezies in the Midwest.
I'm telling you, it's just it's a quiver here. It's all a quiver. Yeah, we've got a heat wave. I think most of the country's in for a big heat wave this week.
Oh,
So
we're going to be 100 today.
oh yeah.
And then we're going to go back down to the balmy temperatures of 97, you know?
Yeah. It's we're a pair today, aren't we? Um so there have been these different timelines coming in, and it's been really interesting because um that's part of that telling your story that we've been talking about too.
Mm-hmm.
Is your story um that things are going to work out, or is your story that you're in fear? And what does that look like? And how does your body react to it? How does your mind react to it? It changes your vibration. And I feel like right now there's just a lot of things in play, and maybe that's why my energy is kind of off center today. Plus, it's my birthday, so I don't know.
It's your karma free day. I told you this.
I know. It's my karma free day, so I can get away with some trouble today.
That's right.
Last night, I thought I could get away with, excuse me, I have been kind of like craving for about a year or two a good piece of fried chicken and mashed potatoes and cream gravy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I haven't had it in a few years, and I thought, gosh, that's going to be amazing. So we ordered it last night for my birthday, and we watched Ghostbusters, the new one.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't hold it down. It was just like, forget about it. My body reacted to it in a horrible way. I was like, okay, it's not going to happen. But so it's interesting. The things that used to work that don't work anymore
Right.
in our lives, like fried chicken.
Like fried chicken. Like you have to go back and try it one more time.
Yeah, try it one more time, and you're like, okay, not going to happen. Thank you, Mimi. Yeah. Lori, being in Texas has you choking up for days now.
The pollen's been terrible.
Has it?
Mm-hmm. Because it's pollen and dust. I think when you look on the little weather thing, if you have that on your phone,
I do.
it says dust and dander. And
Oh,
so it's like you feel like this fog of cat hair is coming toward you. I'm not allergic to cats particularly, but some long-haired cats will trigger it off.
yeah. I used to always be allergic to them, but now we have a cat and it's not so bad. But yeah, we have a heat advisory today, and it's dusty and gross. So hey,
But
White Dragon.
at least you're not living in a burning forest like on the West Coast.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the West Coast in Canada, right?
Right.
Oh,
You should
so
send
sad.
some love and light and some cool blue towards those folks because
Yeah. So you were talking about the ley lines too, and how they're
they're changing.
yeah, changing. And I can really feel that right now. That things are moving around, and like what used to be what worked for you is
Mm-hmm.
changing. And we're finding that out now, like chicken. And our dreams, I don't know about anybody else here, but my dreams are showing me like old ways and decay
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And then they're showing me these bright new apartments or condos or houses that we're all moving to. That it's like the old way. What was that song that Sinead O'Connor, or maybe it was Florence and the Machine sang? The old ways or dying or something like that. Anyway,
That's not my generation of music. You're one above. You're one sooner. I mean, we got to
yeah,
go back to the Beatles.
okay.
I got Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, it is. Here comes the sun. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Paul's going back to work. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're excused.
Yeah.
You came and got your little bit of spirit.
Yeah. It is going to be, anyway, so it's interesting um, how sometimes we kind of walk in between and sometimes we're on it.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about that in between also. when we were backstage.
Yes. Well, I was talking to you about going out to visit Hogarth,
Yeah.
and he said, he said, well, the first time I went out to look at him, he was the day before this picture that I'm going to show you was done. Um, I'd gone out to see him, and he was completely bare. He had nothing on him. And the next day, I went, and he was covered. This was when all the greens, all his little burls create little branches, and then they fade away. Those burls, by that burl, I put my hand across it. I could put 5 of my hands on that one burl. Now, I don't have giant hands, but he's got giant burls. And I leaned against the tree the day I took this picture, and I said, you've gotten all green so fast. I mean, things don't green up in Texas that fast. And I said, what's happening? And he said, it's happening. It's all going to happen that fast. And you can see the ley line kind of drifting behind him. This is in the early spring. And since then, I went out and I said, well, I want to measure the ley line. And he said, okay. And I couldn't find the edge. I do it with dowsing rods, and I couldn't find the edge of it. And I said, Hogarth, where's the edge of the ley line? And he said, they put a marker for you. And this is what I found. This is a leaf. We don't grow that color leaf in Texas. And this stayed there for 2 weeks. And every time I'd go out, I'd take a picture of it. And finally, one day I couldn't find it, and I looked over, and it had broken off, and it was nestled against the grass. I think the lawnmower got it. And I picked it up, and I have it in my wallet. I wrapped it up in some paper, and I have it in my wallet. But we don't grow colors of leaves, but that told me where the edge of the ley line was right now. And what's happening to the ley lines is, I'm going to make Teri and I big again. What's happening to the ley lines is they're growing wider. And ley lines, when they first found them, they'd find that they moved a little bit. They kind of wiggled along the earth. I mean, they'd be more this way. And actually, some people who followed it said it flowed with the moon, the action of the moon on the earth. But I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't measure ley lines. But that's out of Rory Duff's book. He has a whole book on ley lines. And what's happened in the last 3 years is the ley lines have gotten wider. They've gotten straighter. And according to the messages that people that work with them a lot is, and I just go out and visit Hogarth, and I'm fascinated by it. But they're going to lock in place in the winter solstice. They're going to lock straight, and that's where they're going to be. And that was foretold because I don't know if you've ever seen the shows I've done with Johan, but he actually goes astral travels all over the world and straightens big ley line points. And he told me that, I said, why are you having to do that? You know, why? First of all, why do they break? And sometimes they break because the original ley lines were laid on Pangea, which was when we were all one continent. And so now as we split off, they get torn. And he, in particular, was doing a lot of fixing of the ley lines between South Africa, or Africa where he lives, to the South Pacific, across the Indian Ocean and towards Australia and New Zealand. But the closer you get to New Zealand, the straighter the ley lines get, because the native peoples there never forgot they existed. And they walk them, and they call them singing lines, and they actually walk them and sing on them. And they made them like real permanent paths. And what's supposed to happen in the winter is that all the ley lines are going to lock in place. And 2.5 years ago, when I was talking to Johan, he said there's going to come a time when we've gone through this incredible time of all this photonic energy that's passing through the world. Well, it's doing things in the core of the earth. And there's going to come a point where the core is going to be, in essence, kind of overloaded, and it's going to ring like a bell, like the Schumann resonance, and it's going to come wah, 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 wah. And when it happens, if the ley lines are tight, then the earth, Gaia will be able to control the energy it gets. But if it doesn't, if they weren't connected, or if we just sloppily let them kind of sit around and flap, that energy could fly out who knows where. But you can feel it the first time I walked on that ley line outside my house. I couldn't stand on it very long. And I didn't have earthing shoes. I didn't have grounding shoes on. I had shoes with big, thick rubber soles to protect me from it. But you can get really dizzy out there with them.
Yeah.
And this work's done by Rory Duff. If you look in the chat, you can see it. It's Rory Duff, Duff. And he has a newsletter. And the last newsletter I got from him, it's a PDF he sent you. It was 90 pages long. Rory doesn't have a newsletter. Rory has books he sends you. And Madhu, if you see trees like that with lumps like mine has, those burls, the reason that those trees grow those burls is because there's a ley line underneath them, and ley lines send up so much energy that the tree, to accommodate that extra energy in its growth, it creates those lumps.
Yeah. Barbara says it sounds like a didgeridoo, which, that is one of my favorite frequencies. There's a group that I hear in meditation and then channeling, and it's called the Rock People. And they're from the center of the earth, and it's that same sound, that one.
That's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So, and you guys got to understand this. When we go through the Lionsgate always sort of whizzes us up, and we move out fast on the other side. And this fall is going to be energetically, it's going to be insane, just in how fast things change around you.
I can feel it. I can so feel it, you guys. It's just like, I just feel like my feet are on fire with the energy right now. And I feel like a lot of the chakras of the planet, that there's different chakras all over the planet.
Right.
Shasta
is a root chakra.
Shasta
and Titicaca,
Titicaca
is sacral.
I can't remember. I've got it here somewhere. I think it's down here in one of my files. But I feel like we're getting new chakras, just like we're opening up new energy centers in our bodies. The planet's getting new centers too. Like I feel like Lahaina is one now on Maui. I feel like it was before, and it's opened again after the fire. And it's just kind of there with the tree, the banyan tree.
And Uhuru, I think that's how you say it, used to be called Ayers Rock, that big red lump of land that comes out of the middle of Australia is one.
Yeah.
And the pyramids are one.
Yeah.
That area. And
it's interesting because they say there's more pyramids in North America than any other continent.
Yeah, if you've seen the LiDAR stuff, wow.
Yeah.
And they're studying one in Louisiana, and it's a time team. The British thing that they do, a bunch of them came over because it's a really old civilization, and it created what would, in essence, what we would call a town, but it was a pre-agricultural group. So they were like hunter-gatherers. They're like what they're finding in Turkey.
Yeah.
The tepes. That there's these older and older civilizations that were here, and and they built this thing, and it's in Louisiana, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry, but it's something Point, Promise Point or something. But it's an old area, and they said, why would they be attracted there? Well, they found that underneath the ground, when you look what the ground is now, in the old times when these people would have shown up, they had mud volcanoes, which are volcanoes that come up and they have hot gases and stuff. And so it's like all of a sudden this thing just shows up and throws up a flare. And that's probably what attracted them there. And they're excavating down to see how that works.
Wow. There's so we talk about the time shift and stuff, but also it's like a shift in science and culture and everything. And it seems like every other day there's a new discovery, like in Turkey and all around the world, of ancient things that they didn't know existed. And like they just found something underwater by Greece, I think, too, a stone circle. And so it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be alive.
Well, if you think the Ice Age sucked up a lot of water. So a lot of this stuff goes to when, if you went far enough north, you were on a permanent vacation in winter sports. But along the Mediterranean stuff, it was still warm. And the water was sucked up. It's like that. They used to think it was a mythic town in India, and it's off of Delhi. And there was supposedly this prince that ran everything. And that's one of the places where they said they had the flying cars. And there's all kinds of wonderful, and everybody thought, oh, what wonderful little myths. They've gone out, they found the whole damn city. It's there.
Wow.
And of course, the more the ice caps melt, the harder it is to go see the things that are underwater because they're deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just going to be figuring out what's down there. I like what Lori said. She said, we also now have 29 places in the world where the blue light has come through the surface. The first one was in the Arctic Circle shortly before Nalvani died. Yeah. Yeah. And Diana is saying, yes, Teri, New Charles opening. I'm in a Mayan astrology submersion, as only Diana would be.
Right.
13 days of the jaguar feline dragon. Well, let me just say, I love that combination. That sounds so powerful. The day out of time was the 26th. Fabulous. Yeah.
But these are all, because a lot of it got suppressed in South America when the Catholics showed up. They burnt their books and said, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And they lost their language. Have you ever seen the story about the guy who finally figured out how to translate the symbols on the temples? He was a little kid, and his dad was an archaeologist that went down there. And he was fascinated with the temples, so he used to go along and just touch them and play with them. And eventually, when he grew up and went to college, he studied linguistics, and he figured it out.
Wow.
And I have enough trouble understanding English, and I know all the letters and kind of have dictionaries and words and stuff. I just can't imagine. I mean, I can. He all of a sudden crossed over and was taken through.
Yeah. Programmed. Right. He downloaded.
Here's the answer.
Yeah. And kids don't have that, the constructs of society. When they're born, it's like, if we can get there early enough as a child, or I think now late enough too, is, we're kind of over society's norms, a lot of us. So you get to a certain age and you're like, okay, I'm going to be me. I'm going to fly free.
Yeah. And where we're really going to, 8-8 is considered a portal. And here's another picture I have. This is all of us kind of whooping in there. But it's to the center of heading into our galactic center. This is actually a picture someone sent to Dr. Gale.
That's beautiful.
And she said, I don't know what this is. And she sent it along with the picture of Cecil, my dragon. And I had just been telling Dr. Gale, I've had this trip where I was taken to the center of the earth to meet with the elementals, and that I have to talk about them, and I have to talk about this and not expect to be dragged off to the home. And the and Dr. Gale said, and I was explaining it to her, and she said, "Oh my God, my friend sent me pictures." So she sent me the pictures, and that's exactly what I saw. And Cecil looked like Cecil. She'd seen it, and this woman had sent Dr. Gale this 2 or 3 weeks before I had the dreams.
Wow.
And as an affirmation. So then I realized I really have to do this. I don't have any choice. And that's when I think Dr. Gale became aware that part of her work on Shasta was to deal with the elementals that are there. But that's the other thing that's going to happen in the next year. It's just like you found 3 butterflies by your lemon tree. You're seeing dragonflies. They're all parts of the elementals coming towards us.
Pardon me.
Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
Thank you. Yeah. And 3s
Mm-hmm.
again. Yeah. We're going through some changes here. I love the elemental energy coming in too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Old oil painter did an almost identical portal painting. Portals are going to be extremely important to us to understand and to use, and to, it's because since we all are just energy, and the fact that I think I'm sitting in Dallas, Texas, is why I'm sitting in Dallas, Texas. It's not because the soul may really want to go be somewhere else. Tell you, if I have to go outside this afternoon, the soul's really gonna want to be somewhere else. But what we really need to do is get ready to it. Send me a picture of it, oil painter. Just take a JPEG and send it to me. But we're all seeing the same things, and we have this wonderful community to share it in. Because it'd be one thing if I was off thinking it was a daydream, which a lot of the stuff when I was younger, I thought, well, that's just a daydream. And then when it happened, I kind of went, oh, was it? Not sure.
yeah, I used to paint when I was in grade school and high school. I used to paint entities, and now I know that they're different star beings, different families, and
creating the old family album.
Yeah, I sure was. Yeah, all different colored people and different kinds of fingers, and interesting. Anyway, but there's we're reconnecting again.
Mm-hmm.
So so when you work with elementals, are you
Hogarth is one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely our trees are. Yeah. And then do you find yourself like kind of falling inside the planet when you do that, or what's your energy?
When they call me, the first time they called me to come see them, Cecil picked me up and he said, "You have to come with me." Well, when a dragon says, "Get on my back," you don't say no.
Yeah.
So I got on his back and we flew all over the world. And it was just so much fun because we flew like over Paris, and I could see the Eiffel Tower lit up. There were other cities where, there's a landmark there, or there are ports that we went around the coast of Spain. Then we went up over England, and I saw Big Ben and London. And I said, this is so much fun. And we flew over the coast, I think it was the coast of Ireland, and there was like a hole in the ocean. And I was like, what's that? And Cecil said, that's where we're going. Hold on. I was already holding on. I mean, and we dove in that hole, and that's the hole you see. And those little dots, there were things going into that hole. And where I was taken to was the part of it's physically part of our earth. We don't have the vibrations as humans to sense they're there, but it's where the elementals went. Because with the Industrial Revolution and the westernization of a lot of native cultures, the people who had acknowledged them, that the humans they would interact with, could no longer see them. And this all happens starting with the age of Earth, that we're now in the age of air, so they can come back out. But where they went to was, it was so painful for them to not be able to interact with the humans, that they were given this space to be there. So when I landed, it was almost a Tolkien-esque kind of place. And Cecil said, get off and they'll come get you. And out of the woods came every kind of mythical elemental I'd ever read about. And I used to have a book this thick next to my bed from junior high on myths of the world. And I'd read about Western myths, Eastern myths, myths in the Pacific. I mean, so I kind of knew who all of these people were. And they were all dressed in there was party time. They were having a party. So they took me to the party in the woods and they talked to me. I don't remember all the conversations distinctly, but the message was, we're coming. You are uniquely prepared because you're so tied to the earth, that you're uniquely prepared to be able to explain us and us to them and them to us. When you're here, you have the vibrations to see it. And there was beautiful, tall, very slender looking sort of fairy types that are called something else. They're called, it's an Irish word and I don't know how to say it right, so I'm not going to try, but it starts with an S. And then there was the energy and the spirits that can appear in Ireland as seals, but they can take their skin off and they can be beautiful women, and they'll drag people into the ocean.
Yeah.
There's the good guys and the bad guys. What you have to understand about elementals is they're much more like we are, because they were born out of the energies of our earth. And so they're not angels. And that's what they said. We want you to get them to understand we're coming and we're not aliens. We belong here. The things that show up in spaceships, that's fine, but we belong here. And there was little fairies, and there was a unicorn. It was a very nice unicorn. And they said, we want you to go back and explain who we are, because we're brought forward by rituals. And I said, and they said, well, you do your 9 candles. You understand the importance of periodic rituals to embrace a change of vibration. And their goal for us is to get our vibrations up so we can see them. And I'm going to warn you, if you start dealing with elementals, they're lots of fun and they're really nice. And I mean, they can do their own thing, but some of the sprites and fairies, they can be mean little boogers. I mean, it's like dealing with very smart 3-year-olds at times. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I allowed them to come into my life, and after the first night I had the dreams, I was like, that's why I talked to Dr. Gale. And she said, yep, it was real. So I was like, I just can't see getting on YouTube and sitting and talking like this about this. This is nuts. So I got in my car and I was going to go off to Michael's to pick up some frames for my crystal grids. And right in front of my windshield was a solid gold dragonfly.
Wow.
And it looked right at me and I went, oh, who are you? And then it got on the side by the driver's window. And it was hard when it would hit against the window. It was like knock, 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 which dragonflies don't do. Also, I don't live where there are dragonflies. So, and it got in front of my car and it was right where it was right in the middle of my vision when I was driving. And I said, they've sent you to tell me I have to get with the agenda, right? And it said yes, and then it disappeared. So I said, okay, I'll do it. But then when I went, the next dream I had where I went back to them, they were very upset that I'd already had 2 shows on YouTube and I hadn't talked about them yet. I said,
Ooh.
and they sent me some guardians. They sent me some fairies that live in my office, and they do things. They move things. I'll have all my decks laid out, what I'm going to work with, what I'm going to read from, have all that stuff, and I'll look over and they'll be gone. And one time I was going to do a show with Andrea when she was still doing readings, and I have one of her decks, and I was going to use her deck and talk about the symbolism in her deck. And I tore this office apart. I could not find her deck. And so I called Casey, because sometimes when you're looking for something so hard, you can't see it. So I called my daughter and I said, "Do you see Andrea's deck here anywhere?" And she looked all over. She said, "It's not here, Mom." And I said, "Well, damn." So I had to completely change my show. And I talked a little bit more about elementals in tarot. There are some that are in there, and certain decks that are based around them. And later that afternoon, I was walking across from the kitchen to my bedroom, and there in the middle of the floor, where there's nowhere you could have missed it, was Andrea's deck. So
Yeah, that's like the link to today's show was gone. It was nowhere, and I had seen it this morning. You know, I knew where it was, so it's just like these things start mixing or missing. So I want to ask you about the tectonic plates, because when we go in and do meditations, and when we go into the center of the earth, I can really feel the softness of them and the movement, like they're doing a little dance as they go around the planet.
Unfortunately, for them, it feels like a subtle little dance. But for us, it opens up gateways for the lava to come up, and for all of the things to break through. But if you have you ever seen a thing where they roll Pangea back together and they show about where all the different parts of the earth came from?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, Appalachia in the U.S., if you put it all back together, it directly went into Ireland.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Even the music.
I know. And not only that, it has the same kind of serpentine. And all the people, a great many of the Scots-Irish gravitated into Appalachia when they came to this country. And they passed the part that wasn't, but they came in there. So there's a lot, when you follow some of the migrations that have gone across the earth, you'll see people going back to their roots.
Wow. Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So there's a lot of energy in that we know where we come from.
Well, like when I go to the East Coast, the people that I see there, I see a lot of dark, swarthy people, and you can kind of get that there's a lot of Italian and, Greek, perhaps, people there, and then the Norwegians and the upper Midwest, right?
Right.
The Scandinavians. It's just like everywhere. It's so interesting, isn't it?
And I found it on Audible, but it's a book written by a guy, and it was his PhD thesis at Cambridge in 1917. And it was about, he was going back and he was interviewing the Celtic areas of Ireland, Scotland. He went over a little bit into the part of France that was related to all that. And he interviewed them about the traditions of the little people, or the people that helped him. And because of when he was interviewing people, he was interviewing people who had great grandparents who had lived a long, long time and were there when America was going through the revolution. And they would talk about the little people. They could see them dancing in the glens, and they could see them all around. And then the Industrial Revolution came, and it brought trains and industry and destroying the land to get more coal and all that stuff. And the that's when we had the mass migration underground.
That's interesting because they talk about iron being not good for little people or for the fae.
No, they don't. They don't like it.
Yeah. Wow. That makes a lot of sense.
What was it?
Bam.
I saw a show on Netflix. I'm going to look real quick and see if I can find it.
Okay.
If you get Netflix, this show is absolutely fascinating. I think it's called Dead Boy Detectives, but I'm going to look at it right now and make sure. And it's about two young men who died at two different times, but they never went across. So they've stayed in spirit on the earth. And what was fascinating for me was when I was watching it, it was so when they get involved with the spirit world, that part of the spirit world, that it was exactly what you wanted to it was, where's search. It's not doing it. Okay. I think it's still on here because it was on it a few days ago. It's called Dead Boy Detectives, and it's a fascinating story. But there's a it's a series, so it's like 9 shows, and they catch some sprites by accident. They trap them, and it was so funny because my daughter was watching it with me, and she goes, "That's what you've always told me, that the fairies are not just these lovely little winged creatures. They can have a real bite to them." If you see that show, and they talk to spirits from the sea, and it's really, really interesting. If you're interested in kind of the elemental world, they mix the two, and they did. Whoever wrote it really knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, silkies.
Silkies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the seals that can
shapeshift. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember reading about them. And it's funny because the fairy books have been, I know when my kids were younger, that was really, really popular. It's probably always been popular, but I just remember we had so many books on fairies and dragons. And
Mm-hmm.
good reason.
Yeah, I was talking to Angela about it this weekend. She's in Finland, and she said they have dwarfs and gnomes. They don't have the nice little fairy kids.
Oh,
But if every culture has a dragon. Every single culture has a dragon, and the word for it is like dragon. It's dray. And the myths about them are slightly different. The dragon myth in Africa is that 2 of them were called up, and they're creating all of this life on that part of the planet. And what they ended up having to do was one had to bite the other one's tail. Anyway, they created a loop so they could hold the whole continent together. And dragons in the Asian traditions, some of them can be a little rough, but most of them are wonderful, gentle creatures. And there are temples that are built up in the Himalayas, where if you look at the top of the temple, there are these big window type things in the roof. And that's so the dragons can fly through. But you get to our culture, and actually the dragons became apparent here when we were at a much less spiritual level. Our faith hadn't gotten to where theirs was.
sure.
And so dragons became dark, horrible creatures because man couldn't control them. But my favorite dragon story, it's Finnish. And Angela told it to me. This young couple got together and did what young couples do, and the girl ended up pregnant, and so the village got together and they decided that the young man should be cast out, become an outcast, and have to go find another place to live. But the girl they were going to chain on the beach because there was a dragon that used to come out and he'd occasionally munch on someone. So they set her out on the beach to die and to get killed by the dragon. And the dragon came out and the villagers were up on the hill watching it. And it said, where's the father of this young woman and where are the leaders, the elders that are supposed to teach them the ways of their people? He said, bring them to me. If they've made this judgment, I want to talk to them. So the father came down and the elders, and they're expecting the dragon to say, good job, I'm going to turn this kid into lunch. And the dragon reached down and it snapped them up and ate them. And it said, the judgment is not on the child. The judgment is on the person raising the child. And he told her where she could find her boyfriend.
Wow.
Now that's my kind of dragon story.
Yeah, that's
You
powerful.
always have the dragon trying to eat the young maiden and keep her from St. George.
Oh, that's right. St. George and the Dragon.
Yeah, all of European dragon tales. That's the only one I know of that I've read that has a decent ending. But dragons were supposed to be very old and very wise, and they and the reason ley lines relate to the elementals is that's sort of their railroad track around the world. When they're up on the surface, that's where their energy travels through.
So when you go into the inside of the earth, also, I get that there's a lot of ancient ones.
Yeah.
Like ancestors of the planet
Mm-hmm.
that reside there. So what do you see them looking like when you go?
I don't know. I don't talk to them.
You don't? Okay.
I get to talk to the elementals. And if there may be some ancient ones hanging out in there.
Yeah.
But I really, honest to God, I wouldn't go inside the earth except the elementals drag me there. It's like, I don't go to outer space with Dr. Gale. I like the earth. That's what someone was told that was talking with me. And he said, you are so earthbound, and that you've told the masters, don't take me here, don't take me there. I want to stay in the earth. Because I'm in love with humanity.
That's beautiful.
So that's my job, is to connect humanity to the things they might not otherwise see.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Nancy Jean. Love that.
And this is sort of like, and all kinds of cultures have sacred lizards, and all the lizards and all those things are all forms of dragon life that's here.
Yeah. And then we have the reptilian brain too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Some of us never outgrow it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Interesting. Really interesting stuff, you guys. I'm kind of reading what everybody's saying here too.
Mm-hmm.
What Dragon is talking about, dragons being cool friends and very respectable beings.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah. Diana says dragons became the feline residents of Lyra in Mayan astrology, hence the jaguar submersion right now. Thundercats.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not, Cecil is not, let's see if I have him in if he's in my slides. Oh, here's Cecil. That's my dragon.
He's beautiful.
And you think dragons are scaly, but kind of looks almost soft and almost feathery. It's almost like a bird-like scales things on them. So,
wow.
Bye, Cecil. But yeah. And when Cecil shows up, you go on the trip, you go on. But really, his whole thing has always been to take me to the elementals and let me know what's going on. And then they set me up with Hogarth. And Hogarth I asked him because he looks like he's kind of leaning, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, the ground here is not the best, and and I said, "Well, what am I going to do when you go away?" He said, "Oh, I'll just move in with you, so I'll have the spirit of Hogarth will be in the house."
Wow.
But my spirits don't bother anybody but me. So you can hear them sometimes when I'm watching a show in the other room. I can hear them. Eewa. Okay.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Um, yeah, it's funny what they sound like and the information that they give us. Um, and you know JJ Tutas Speaks, don't you? Have you had her on yet? Yeah, because this is you guys would get on great with this talk. But we were talking about trees and how, when I lean against a tree, I kind of fall inside it, and she
Mm-hmm.
kind of flies with it when she leans into a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and how different people um, react different ways with trees or with earth or with water or air.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. Um, yeah, and dragons. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting how when we grow up, we kind of get our affinity for what we're doing. Like I've had lions all around my house for forever, and dragons and food dogs. So the guardians all around.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always been there.
That's right. It's all those sort of temple guardians are dragons. That's just a different form that they took to relate to the people who were there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. Well, ma'am, we've
That's
talked
an
away.
hour.
Yeah, we talked away the hour, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
That was interesting for not knowing what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, Teri's been under the weather, and I've been under the something. So
Yep. Much better now. This
good.
helped a lot. Yeah.
You finally, it takes a while to get over that stuff.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Every once in a while, I'm like, what the heck? Why am I feeling like that? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that now.
And there's still a week from now, you may hit a day when you feel like, oh, there's that wall again. Just let yourself have the chance to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you to everyone for coming and listening to my Dragon Tales.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for being here, White Dragon and Diana and Rossi, Oil Painter, Mimi, Dragons Fly or Butterflies Are Free, Sharon, Liza,
Lisa
Barbara,
Ford showed up
Marvel.
last.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. And Oil Painter, send me your portal picture. And I forgot I'm the one who has to turn this off. I'm waiting for you to turn it off, Terry.
Yep. It's on you this week.
Okay, bye guys.